I like James Blake. I think his previous material is pretty damn good. It doesn't strike me as like, you know, engaging as when I first heard it years ago. But I still enjoy it for what it is. I think his debut album is pretty solid. I think Overgrown might be my favorite of his. And The Colour and Everything, I get that people love that album, but it's just far too long for its own good, man. Like, it needed to be like 20 minutes short. Like, it was just so friggin' long, and it was such a slog to sit through. Nearly every track to me just sounded the same. And I don't know, I'm not really that big on I Need a Forest Fire, which I'm sorry, I just don't think that song's that good. And his latest album, Assume Form, is actually a much happier album than his previous work, I would say. It's a love letter to his real life girlfriend, Jamila Jamil, who is an actress on The Good Place. She's a great actress, and it's a good show as well. You should watch The Good Place if you've never watched it. And overall, this is a very sweet album. I can't deny many of these songs, honestly. I think the way he sings about his girlfriend, his love, is really nice to listen to. It's very adorable, and just listening to him sound so happy is really nice, actually. It's just one of those albums that there aren't really that many flaws to point out in the lyrical department. It just has such a nice way of words, and it's really nice listening to an album that's about love, but also manages to, you know, take its own unique spin on the idea as well. It's not like cliche, generic, you know, I love you songs, whatever, my heart's on my sleeve, like, you know, like your typical really cliche ballad that'll make it into the charts. That kind of shit, you know, some Ed Sheeran type song. It's none of that ever gets to this point. Like, it's actually a really well written album. Unfortunately though, there are just some dull moments on this album. Like, there are some extremely uninteresting and empty areas of like space that just need to be filled up with something. You know how like at school where you're in PE and you're in the PE hall or whatever, and the teacher's like, hey, everyone get into a space, and everyone gets into a space, and then there's always that one gap where no one stood, and the teacher's like, why is there no one there? Like, I told you to get into a space. Why is nothing, why is no one filling up this area? That's like me with this album. Like, there are so many interesting ideas, and there are so many moments where like James is utilizing his vocals, and the instrumentation's really lovely, but every so often there's just like this empty moment of like nothing is here, like there's nothing going on. He has all of this talent, and yet it's not being used in this area. Why? I think a perfect example for me is Are You In Love, which has this like really wonderful chorus where his vocals are like soaring, are you in love? And there's that really cool synth part where it's like and in the verses though, it's just like this little tapping like whatever, and James's voice is like really dull and like uninspired, and it's just such a slog, and it goes on for so long. It's like or the second track, Mile High, which is actually really poorly placed when you think about it, because it shouldn't like suck out all the momentum from what you got from the first track so early on. Like, I skip this track every time. Like, honestly, I can't sit through Mile High ever. Like, it's definitely one of his worst songs to date. I find the production really dead, and Travis Scott takes up quite a chunk of the song as well. It doesn't add really anything unique. You would think with this kind of collaboration they would do something that, I don't know, you wouldn't expect, or they would do something that would be so out of the ordinary, because it is quite a strange collaboration. Oh, Metro Boomin, Travis Scott and James Blake? I wouldn't expect that, and yet it gives you nothing. Which is actually really funny to me, because the track directly after also has Metro Boomin, and the production on here is some of the best on the album. I just don't know what happened with Mile High. It really makes no sense. And Moses Sumney is has a vocal credits on this track as well, and he's really good. I didn't like Moses Sumney album from 2017, like at all. A lot of people liked it, which is fair enough, but I just really didn't like his voice. But on this track, his vocals were really nice. And this track has such a great melody as well. Bum, 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 bum. Bum, 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 bum. Bum, 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 bum. It is easily one of the best tracks on the album. I don't know if it is the best, but it might be actually. It might be the best. I don't know yet. While we're on the topic of features, I may as well bring up the Rosalia feature and Andre 3000 feature. I think a lot of people are going to love these features, but honestly, I feel like both artists are just doing what they usually do. Anywhere else, I'm not really that impressed by them, if I'm being honest. Like, they're fine, they're serviceable, but they're just kind of, yeah, okay. I've got to be like truthful here. I do feel like Andre 3000 feels out of place on the album. I don't know, I just feel like it's like a blonde moment for me, where like, yeah, what he's doing is good, but it just doesn't really match the flow of the album. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but it just didn't really seem like it was the right fit for this album. I guess that's probably going to be an opinion that won't you know, be shared by many, but I just think the fact that when he comes up, I'm like, oh, like, wow, he's here. It's just kind of like, oh, right, okay. Also, it doesn't really sound like he wants to be there. At the start of the verse, he's like, this is a heady-ass verse. I usually hate doing heady-ass verses, so here we go. And it's just kind of like, was that necessary? Like, if you don't have to do this, you know, you could just say no and not do it, but it just really didn't sound like he was interested in putting in a verse, to be honest. And this instrumentation for Rosalia on her track, it fits her really well. I just think sometimes I'm not that all impressed with the vocals. Like, she has really lovely vocals, but I'm just kind of like bored a little bit. Like, I had that issue on her last album where like it was a really good album, but like she kind of just kept doing the same thing with her voice, and eventually it got a little bit tiring. So, you know, maybe it's just something I have, but it's not, these tracks aren't bad tracks at all. They're just not that impressive, I don't think. Especially when you have tracks like I'll Come To and Power On, where it's just James Blake the whole way through, and they're just fantastic. Like, Power On is a great song, and I'll Come To is actually really quite cute with its lyricism here. It's like the idea of like how wherever she's going, he's like, well, yeah, I'm gonna go there too. Oh, you've changed your mind, you're going to LA now? Yeah, I'm gonna go there too. Like, I think it's just like a really nice sentiment that you don't often hear in songs. Like, I guess with these kind of relationships where like, okay, you know, I'm an actor, I've got to move around, you know, to different types of places. It probably is very, like, you know, trying on a relationship for people. But James is just like, yeah, you're going there, I'm there. We're you know, we're together. That's what we do. We stay together wherever we go. Like I've already said, these aren't like ordinary love songs. These are James Blake love songs, and the way he writes them is really, really good. I think he just has such a way with words at times, and has a unique spin on the idea of love, to be honest. I also think the way he incorporates his own insecurities into these songs is quite intriguing as well. Like on Can't Believe with the way we flow, where he's just like so in awe of how, like, you know, great the relationship is, that yeah, he's just still in the back of his mind just like wondering, how is this possible? Like, what is making this happen? I can't believe like this is the way it is. And yet, you know, he accepts it, but at the same time he's just like wondering like how. Also with the track Where's the Catch, which I brought up already with Andre, here he's basically just like, yeah, everything's going so well, but where's the catch? Like, there's got to be something. There's got to be something that makes this not work, because it just can't possibly be this good. There's going to be something that gets in the way, surely. Again, I just think that the way he's writing these songs, like, that has such an interesting spin on the idea, because there are a lot of people out there that have those kind of insecurities, no matter how you know, in love they may think they are, or whatever, or how intense a relationship may be. Some people still have this like idea of like, nah, you know what, I'm too flawed to be loved by someone else. And I think James has a great way of like addressing that kind of thing. But yeah, overall this is a really quite a good album. I do like this quite a bit. I haven't mentioned Don't Miss It yet. That was a track that came out last year, and I didn't actually catch on to it until fairly recently. I'm not sure why. It was the same with the other single he dropped as well, If a Car Beside You Moves Ahead. I didn't really pay attention to them when they initially came out, but they are actually really good tracks, and Don't Miss It as well as a really, really good electronic fused pop track. Definitely interesting to see how like he still has that like, I guess, experimental approach to electronic music with tracks like If a Car Beside You Moves Ahead, but then on this actual album, you know, it's more straightforward and straight to the point. Would be interesting to see him incorporate more elements like that into like songs like these, but for what it is, I do think it's actually really quite a good album. As I said, there are just a few moments here and there that just don't quite grip me in the way that some of the other great tracks do. The closing track is another example of this. Again, lyrically, it is lovely. I keep using the word lovely, but it actually is. Like the way he's talking about how like if she can't sleep with her insomnia, then, you know, I'm going to stay up with you, you know, you're not going to be alone for this. It's just got such a great sentiment to it. But it doesn't sound that very good. Like, it's nice. I know it's meant to be a lullaby, but I'm pretty bored by the halfway point, to be honest. It's just my own taste, I guess. Some tracks really could have been more musically engaging for me, but I know for some people this will be an album that they absolutely adore. But for me, I'm going to go 7 out of 10. I think it's a really good album. Check it out if you haven't already. Let me know your thoughts if you have, and what you think of this album, and how you would rate it. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.